Hello guys, and welcome to another HTML and CSS project tutorial. Today I'm going to teach you how to create a website using HTML and CSS. So today we're actually going to create this Apple Watch Series 7 landing page website using only HTML and CSS. So let me quickly walk you through what we are going to create. So up on the top left we have our logo, which is actually an icon that we are going to use. Then we have our navigation menu. We have home, products, contact us, and then we have some icons. And then we have our sign in button with some cool hover effects. Okay. And then on the left side, we have our info, and then we have our call to action button. And on the right side, we have our cool hover effects with a banner image. Okay. And we are going to do all this using only HTML and CSS. All right, so let's get started. Now in my main folder, I only have three files. I have my index.html file, my style.css, and then the image we are going to use. Okay, and I'm going to leave a link to the image. So with image, I'm going to do exclamation tab. Okay, and I'm going to say how to create a website using HTML and CSS. All right, and I'm going to link my style sheet. Okay, let me actually open this in live server so that we see what's going on. So that's all we have so far, nothing. And I'm going to use icon scout. Okay, for the icons, these icons, I'm going to use icon scout for that. So I'm going to paste the CDN, which is this. I'm going to leave a link to this as well. Okay, so that's what we have. Now I'm going to have everything in a header. Okay, we are going to have a container for that so that we can have everything in the middle, just like this, so that we have some spaces on the left and right. Okay, and I'm going to have my navigation bar, which is going to have the logo, and the logo is going to be the Apple logo. So on icon scout, I'm just going to search Apple and then copy. And we have this. Okay, now for the navigation links or the nav menu, I'm going to have some LIs with A's, which are not going to go anywhere. We're going to have home. Let me duplicate this. So we have home, products, and this also going to be an icon, right? So there's going to be the search, and then the next one is going to be bag, I think, shopping bag. Yeah, this. All right, and we are going to have our sign in button. Okay, so that gives us this for the navigation bar. Now that's all for the nav bar. So let's move on to the main section. All right, let's move on to this section, this part. All right, so that is going to be in a section tag, and and we are going to have left and then right. Okay, so the info part is going to be the left, and then this side with the image is going to be the right. Okay, so this is going to be the left, and then this is going to be the right. All right, so for the left we are going to have an h2 and an h1, and we are going to have a paragraph and another paragraph, which I'm actually going to, let's give this paragraph a class of price. Okay, and then the next paragraph I'm actually going to paste it in. Okay, so that's all for the left. We only need our action button, our call to action button, which is going to be a link with a class of button, class of btn. Let me actually give this sign in a class of btn as well. So that's going to say add to cart. All right, so that's all for the left. Now let's move on to the right. Okay, which is going to have the image. So the right is going to have a class of background, a div with a class of background, which is the white background here. Okay, and it's going to have a sibling with a class of image as well, which is going to hold the actual image. So img, and then the source is going to be the only image we have. All right, and that is all for the markup. Okay, let's move on to the css. So this is what we have for the markup for the html. Now let's move on to styling it. So I'm actually going to have some root variables, okay, so that we don't keep repeating ourselves with colors and all that. So I'm going to have these root variables, so you can just copy this or type this in. So the main background is going to be a linear gradient. Okay, I'm going to have a dark color, which is going to be for most of the text and the icons, and I'm going to have a light color, which is actually white. Okay, FFF, and this is going to be the primary color. All right, so let's move on. The body is going to, let me first zero everything out. So margin is going to be 0. Padding, I'm going to set that to 0 as well. I'm going to set the list style to none. Okay, you see this bullet is going to be none. So for, let me resize this. When I save, you see the bullets will go. Okay, and then I'm going to set this the text decoration for the links to none as well. All right, so the links don't have that underlines. And then I'm actually going to set the font family for everything to be Poppins. Okay, which is a sans serif font. All right, let's move on to the body. So the body is going to have a width of 100 viewport width, a height of 100 viewport height as well, and the background is going to be this bg color, which is the gradient bg color, and I'm going to have the color of dark, the variable dark color, which is this color, and I'm going to set the overflow to hidden. Okay, for now the overflow is going to be hidden. All right, so let me style the a's. Okay, I'm going to style the a's, the links. So every link is going to have a color of black, or the dark color, let me set the font size to 0.9 rem. making it a little smaller. And then transition, we are going to have some hover effects, so I'm going to set the transition to 400 milliseconds and then ease. Okay, so that gives us that. Okay, so the color is going to change on hover. I'm going to give it the primary color. Now let's move on to the buttons. Okay, you see we gave some links a class of button, which is this. We gave it a class of button, which is the sign in link, and then the call to action button, which is the add to cart. We gave that a class of button as well, btn. Okay, so everything with a class of button is going to be displayed inline block, and the background is going to be the primary color. Okay, primary color. And then we are going to give them some padding, where it's going to be 0.5 rem and then 2.4 rem. So 0.5 rem top and bottom, and then 2.5 left and right. I'm going to change the color. Let me first give it a border radius of 2 rem, and then I'm going to change the color. The color is going to be white, so that is the light color. And then we are going to set the border to actually be 1 pixel solid transparent. Okay, transparent. On hover, we are going to change the color of the border. All right, so btn on hover, I'm going to change the color to the dark color, and then I'm going to change the background as well. The background is going to be transparent. All right, 1 pixel solid, and then the dark color. All right, so that is going to be for the btn. Okay, the links with the class of btn. All right, now let's move on to the main header. Okay, you see we gave everything, we put everything in the header tag. Okay, so the header is going to have a width of 100%, and then the height of 100% as well. Right, 100%. And the container, which is inside the header, is going to have a width of 86% and the height of 100%. Okay, let me give it a margin auto, margin 0 auto, so that everything is positioned in the center. Okay, the main container is going to be positioned in the center. So when I save, you see things change. Okay, and then I'm going to give it a position. I'm going to position it to relative. All right, now let's move on to the navigation bar. Okay, so header, container, and then nav. I'm going to display flex. Let's justify content to be space between. Okay, space between, and let me give it a width of 100% so that you see what's going on. Okay, so we have this for the navigation bar. Let me align items to the center, and then give it a margin top. Okay, let me push it down a little by 1.2 rem, and then I'm going to position that absolute. Sorry for the mistakes. Absolute. And then I'm going to change the z index. Okay, the z index, I'm going to make it 10 so that it sits on top of everything on the page. Let me give the nav a background so that I see what's going on. So this is the nav. All right, I'm going to change the background, but just to see what's going on. Let's keep this for now. So let's move on to the nav menu, okay, the navigation links. Or let me first style the logo. Let me give it a bigger font size. So header, container, nav, and the logo is going to have a font size of 2.4 rem. Okay, header, nav, container. All right, so we have that. As you can see, we have some margin with this icon. Okay, so we are actually going to remove that, and that is on the before. Okay, the before pseudo element of the icon. Okay, so before we are going to remove the margin, so margin is going to be 0. You see now it's better. Okay, let's move on to the navigation links. Okay, so the UL, let's move on to that. So header, container, nav, UL. We are styling this, so I'm going to first display flex, give them a gap of 3.6 rem. All right, so this is what we have. Let me actually align items to the center. Okay, so that's perfect. Now I'm going to remove this background. All right, let me resize the icons for the navigation menu. So header, container, nav UI, and that is going to have font size of 1.3 rem. So they're a little bigger. Okay, that is all for our navigation. Let's move on to our section. Okay, so header, container, and then section. Okay, I'm going to display grid for the section. So we have two divs, a left and then a right. Okay, so these are going to be displayed grid. All right, and I'm going to, the grid template columns is going to be 2FR, 3FR. All right, so the main section is going to be in 5, is going to be divided into 5. The first div, which is going to be the left, is going to have 2 fractions, and then the second is going to have 3 fractions. It's going to be this right holding or containing the image. So we have this 2 fractions, and then this is 3 fractions. All right, I'm going to align items to the center. Okay, and nothing happens because we don't have a height. Let me give it a width of 100% and a height of 100% as well. Okay, so now you see it's pushed down a little. And we are going to style the left side, which is the info side. I'm going to style this. You see that it has an A2, it's in an A2, so we are going to give it a font size of 2 rem, and that is what we are going to do with it. Now the header container section left H1 is going to have a font size of 7 rem, line height of 1.1, font weight I'm going to make it 300, making it light. Okay, section, all right, font weight. Okay, I'm going to change the color to the primary color, and then the letter spacing, I'm going to make it negative 0.4 rem. Right, so this is what we have. Now for the paragraphs, I'm going to give them maximum width of 30 rem, and then the font weight of 300. Okay, now for the p with a class of price, we gave this p, the first paragraph, which is this, sorry, we gave it a class of price, right? So font weight is going to be bold, and then font size is going to be 1 rem. Let's push it from the top, so margin top, I'm going to make it 1 rem as well. All right, section, so we get that. Okay, now let me style the button. Okay, the call to action button, let me make it a little larger. Okay, and I'm going to push it down a little as well. So header, container, section, left, and then btn. Margin top is going to be 2 rem. That will push it down, and then padding is going to be 1.2 rem, top and bottom, and then 3 rem left and right. All right, so that makes it bigger. Now let's move on to the final part, which is the right side. Okay, this image, let's move on to this image, and that has a class of right. So header, container, right, we are going to position it relative, and it's going to be displayed grid. Okay, so that we can put it exactly in the center. We can put the image exactly in the center. So we are going to place items to the center. All right, header, we are going to style the circle at the back. So background, we gave it a class of background, right? Let me see, we gave it a class of background. So that for that, we are going to have the background to be light, which is white. Let's give it a width of 30 rem, a height of 30 rem as well, and then z index should be -1. Okay, so that it's at the back of the image. Border radius of 50% for it to be a circle. Let me justify self to the end. All right, and then I'm going to push it down. So margin top, I'm going to make it 2 rems. Okay, now for the image. Okay, so header, container, right, image, width is going to be 30 rem. Let's give it a height of 30 rems as well, and now we are going to position it absolute. Okay, let's position this absolute, and then from the right we are going to push it 5 rem. Okay, so it's going to be 5 rems from the right, and we have this. All right, now let's style the image. Okay, the actual img. So header, container, right, the image img. Let's give it a width of the full width of its parents, which is going to be 100%. I'm going to rotate it. Okay, so I'm going to transform and then rotate. I'm going to give that 35 degrees of rotation, and then the z index is going to be 0, which is actually not nice, but all right. I'm going to transition all 1 second is okay. So the transition is going to be for the hover effects. Okay, the transition is going to be for the hover effects. Now let's do the hover. Okay, so on hover, I want to transform and then on hover I want to rotate, okay, to 0 degrees, and then scale it 1.2. okay, so I'm going to scale it 120%. all right, so let's try that. Okay, so on hover, our image scales and then rotate. all right, so that is all for the whole tutorial. Please like, share, subscribe for more cool HTML and CSS project tutorials just like this one. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.